Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
He's been called the most powerful man in Britain. But tonight, Nick Timothy, the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, is in the spotlight for his role in the Conservative election expenses scandal. This programme has confirmed that Mr Timothy played a part in the controversial campaign in South Thanet, which is now under investigation by the police. The party insists Mr Timothy and other key workers sent to that constituency worked only on the national campaign and not for the local candidate. But new evidence obtained by this programme, Channel 4 News, suggests key Conservatives did work on the local campaign. And there are serious questions for the MP, Craig McKinley, over whether he fully disclosed everything he knew about the operation to the police. Michael Crick has this exclusive report.
For many months, this programme's been investigating what the Conservatives spent at the 2015 election. And we've found evidence of questionable spending in many seats. But one stands out. South Thanet in Kent, where the party thwarted UKIP leader Nigel Farage. And a key figure in South Thanet was Nick Timothy, who now, as Theresa May's Joint Chief of Staff in number 10, is said to be the most powerful man in Britain. Described by one minister as her Rasputin. No wonder Mr Putin sought him out. The Conservatives are playing down Timothy's role in Thanet, but tonight we reveal its full extent. Indeed, Nick Timothy was widely credited with winning the South Thanet campaign.
Nick Timothy had some success helping to run various by-election campaigns before the 2010 election, and Linton Crosby was clear that he was the right man to take charge of the campaign in South Thanet. So he went down there with that experience and with a fine mind for political campaigning, and effectively helped shake things up and took charge of that operation and delivered a success for the Tories.
And the Conservatives, we've found, spent tens of thousands of pounds in South Thanet. Money either not declared on the local legal return, or which they claimed was national spending, which is also regulated by law. The Electoral Commission and Kent Police are now investigating our findings. At the heart of these investigations is a very simple question. Did the Conservative candidate here last year, Craig McKinley, now the MP, properly declare all the money that was spent on his campaign, as he was obliged to do under the law? Or did the Conservatives spend far more and instead claim that it was part of their national campaign, rather than the local effort to get him elected? This is the Royal Harbour Hotel in Ramsgate. During the 2015 Thanet campaign, the Conservatives hired this plush location as an HQ for the crack team sent down to make sure McKinley beat Farage. Several key figures in the Tory campaign had rooms here, as the owner told me earlier this year.
It was a sort of, headquarters for them?
It was, yes. Well, all hotels become headquarters, unofficially sometimes, but they all hang around and somewhere they can talk and eat.
The team at the Royal Harbour included Sam Armstrong from the Conservative campaign department, Marion Little, Tory campaign specialist, and the party's former head of press, Henry McCrory, on contract. But reportedly in charge of strategy was Nick Timothy, temporarily stood down as Mrs May's top political advisor at the Home Office. We found Mr Timothy on one picture lurking behind May and the Tory candidate Craig McKinley.
Craig McKinley, the Conservative Party candidate.
Two respected books about the election and the Conservative Home website have talked about how Timothy led the campaign in South Thanet. He was praised too on Twitter.
Great to see Nick Timothy, who ran Craig McKinley's campaign in Thanet, is to lead the New Schools Network. Congratulations.
Mr. Timothy even retweeted that and replied,
"Thanks, Peter. See you soon."
and in a phone call with Channel 4 News last May, Nick Timothy seemed to confirm his work in the seat, telling us,
"I was in Thanet. I worked on a variety of things to do with the campaign in Thanet and around the country."
When we asked Conservative headquarters about Nick Timothy's role in the South Thanet campaign, this is what they said. During the 2015 general election, Mr. Timothy was a volunteer for the Conservative Party. His role included briefing policy and political work on Home Office policy, briefing party spokespeople on Home Office policy, supporting Theresa May, and working on a variety of other matters for the Conservative Party during the campaign. But that doesn't explain why Mr. Timothy felt the need to stay here in the constituency where the party wanted to defeat Nigel Farage. Nor does it explain why so many people thought Mr. Timothy was the brains behind the campaign, sent down here by Linton Crosby. And that is what Kent police are looking at. Because if Nick Timothy and his colleagues did work on Craig McKinley's local campaign, at least some of the £14,000 spent at this hotel should have been declared. And that would have put them way over the legal limit of just over £15,000. But neither McKinley nor his agent declared a penny of the Royal Harbour bill. Instead, it went on the Tories' national spending return. Earlier this year, Detective Sergeant Brian Gillam of the Serious Crime Directorate of Kent Police wrote to Craig McKinley and asked him a very direct question. Had any of the people who stayed at the Royal Harbour Hotel been engaged on the local campaign at any time? The MP replied,
"I can confirm that nobody staying at the hotel was subject to my or my agent's control or direction. Any National Conservative Party staff based in the Royal Harbour Hotel were part of a national campaign team."
And yet we've examined scores of pictures and documents from the Thanet contest which show not just Nick Timothy, but others at the Royal Harbour were closely involved in Craig McKinley's campaign. We've got numerous photographs showing Henry McCrory out campaigning with Craig McKinley. There's McCrory, there is McKinley. On that one, there is McCrory and McKinley again. Not only that, South Thanet Conservatives issued numerous press releases in which they advised journalists to contact Henry McCrory and even gave his mobile phone number at the bottom. It's hard to think of a more clear example than a press release to show that somebody was closely involved in the local campaign. And there are pictures, too, of another Royal Harbour guest, Sam Armstrong. There he is, out on the streets with Craig McKinley. And so involved was Mr. Armstrong in Craig McKinley's campaign, he even registered a website called whereisnigel.com to try and show that Nigel Farage was hardly ever in the South Thanet constituency. Later, as an MP at Westminster, McKinley made Sam Armstrong his Chief of Staff. The SNP MP Tommy Shepherd queries why, if Nick Timothy and his colleagues weren't helping Craig McKinley, did they base themselves in a remote seaside resort in Kent?
That seems an odd place to base your national campaign staff. So, you know, it looks very likely, and there is a lot of evidence to suggest that these people were directly and centrally involved in Mr. McKinley's campaign, and the expenses related to that ought to have been declared. And I think, I guess, I think it's time to come clean.
Craig McKinley says his local spending declaration was lawful and proper, while the Conservatives say they've always acted entirely in accordance with the law. Nick Timothy, they add, hasn't been interviewed by either the police or the Electoral Commission. Kent Police told us their officers are still investigating, working with the Commission.
Michael Crick reporting, and you can find out more of this and more coverage of the whole election expenses story on our website, channel4.com/news.
I've been getting away with it all my